moving on next. A question I think very important for all of us is how necessary is it to preserve craft in a context like India? You know, one, for it being recognized and then offered in a country and also on a global platform. We have Harminder Singh presenting next on the authenticity of crafts in Rajasthan. Over to you, Harminder.
Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon. So I should
Very
start
good
my
afternoon.
presentation now.
Yes, please share the screen. Yeah. Yes, you may want to zoom in a little because it's yeah, or maybe even more as you explain.
See, we have a long history of craft in India, and when we look at craft, we can find craft in architecture, we can find craft in accessories, we can find craft in products, and in many other way, intangible way and intangible way, both ways. And some crafts are seasonal, some crafts are practiced throughout the year. And most of these crafts are generally passed on to one generation to next generation through oral history, meaning they go through a certain process where they follow the Guru Shishya Parampara, where they learn while working and while playing in the house. So because we have a move to a traditional education system to a modern education system, which is adopted in last 150 years, the many things are not documented in this field, where if you go to science background or if you go to any other background, you can find a lot of books about the process, materials, and detailing of, you can find the laboratory certificates of its specification. But in this field, it is not available. And this sector is adopting new things, and at the same time this sector is also at the edge of extinction. Many areas in craft, many craftsmen are getting away from the traditional practice. So what is happening here, uh, I have this image here, which is a traditional meenakari work, which is originated uh, from Persia, maybe much older than Persian culture, and moved to India uh, during the Mughal period and many other periods which we have in history. And now what is happening in this particular image, this is a traditional craft technique of meenakari, which is done with the enamel, which has a glass property. And look at this image. This is a imitation of the same work. This is also known as a meenakari, but this is done with the resin color. Now look at this image. This image, right side is the house of founder of Jaipur, Maharaja Jai Singh II, and you can find at the entrance this particular motif, which is carved out of cement. But traditionally, if you look at this motif, which is part of the town planning of Jaipur city, you can find this uniform pattern throughout the markets of old city in Jaipur. Now, what is happening here? The same pattern, which is done with the lime work, now is getting translated with the other material. Now, look at this image. This is a Fadak block printing pattern. On the left side, you have a screen printing, which is basically a modern technique. And at the right side, you have a traditional block printing. Now, both look same. And generally, if you go in the market of Jaipur or anywhere in the exhibition, craft exhibition, both are known as a Jaipur print or block print. But there is a question, how do we see the real craft, which is basically authenticity in the craft? And what are the parameters to understand the authenticity in craft? Now look at this craftsman, they are using charcoal here and they have a very different work environment. And look at this craftsman, he's working in a different work environment. And and this is another image which is a craftsman working in the workshop. This has a very different tools and different working environment. And if we look at the sorry. And now, if we look at the objective, then how do we investigate the authenticity in craft? Is it the tools, the raw material, process, visual style, pattern, ecosystem, geographical indication, design, community? How do we see the authenticity in the craft, final outcome? And then how do we investigate all these things again? What was there and what is now being adopted in the current situation? And how it is going to be carried forward in next generation. So the point which I'm trying to make here, what is the authentic craft in our current situation when we go on the architecture or when we go on the product or in textile? So how do we see and how do we evaluate the authentic crafts? So one need to actually clearly define and identify the parameters to how do we evaluate the authenticity. So that is all I have to present right now. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Harminder. This area of research is very close to even that of our dean. But I'll just take the feedback of the panelists for now. Parul, do you want to begin?
I think we've had a brief chat about this earlier also, and the main points essentially were that from the previous discussion were that I think one is that when we look at this whole idea of authenticity and how it is being questioned and reinterpreted and refigured basically, so especially in a more contextual kind of a way rather than a more internationalized, global kind of a universal kind of a format, but a more contextual, which is what current theory across the field of conservation and the field of heritage and all has been focusing on. So I think the challenge lies in now when we look at craft from the same lens. So there have been, of course, a lot of work that has been done also in this question of whether the form and the product is authentic or whether the process is authentic. So where does authenticity really lie? And those debates are inherently, embedded in the, conservation debate per se. So I would just say that it'll be. I think it's imperative that we sort of position this query and this question that we're trying to find an answer to within this larger discourse that has been on, for the last century and of course this century, so over the last 50 years maybe. So I think if we position it, then we'll probably be able to figure out where we are now trying to take this discourse. So that's, I think, what I would like to add here. Thanks.
Thank you, Parul. Sachin.
Thank you.
Sachin, yeah.
I think, where we take it forward from here is what really, when things will become a little more clear. I think a question which had come earlier also, distinguishing evolution with the idea of authenticity, because things also evolve with changing situations. And when does an evolution gets diluted so that it ceases to lose its original quality, even with because change and evolution is inevitable. So which type of change would you say is authentic, still maintaining the authenticity, and a change which corrupts the original thing or dilutes the original thing? So these are some philosophical questions that needs to be answered.
Thank you, Sachin. Over to you, Ajit.
Harminder, I have a thanks, Suruchi. So, Harminder, I have a question about which is part of my effort to understand also. Because I understand these are historically evolved products, and there would have been some form of authenticity because they were socially accepted or promoted, endorsed, and sorts of thing. Now, I am also seeing. I also saw something like the you bringing the GI into this, the which is kind of a modern system of patenting, recognizing, and all those which I've got. So, what are the conflicts between these two? Are there conflicts, or is it going to be a smooth engagement with these two different? To me, these are two different compartments. Am I wrong? Or if there are differences, now you will have to engage. What are you going to do? How do you deal with these two?
If I
So
have
you don't
time,
have to necessarily
should I
maybe a minute. Take a
okay.
minute.
So what I want to say here, so like if you go to Kashmir, you can find a pashmina shawl, and you know that it is originated from Tibet. The fiber is originated from Tibet, then processed in Kashmir, and then woven with the pedals, with the loom, which is operated with manual power. There is no power loom involved in that. And same pashmina shawl, if you go to Ludhiana and if you go to the inner areas of the market, you can find the imitation of pashmina effect on the power loom. And which is now, how do you evaluate what is pashmina and what is authentic pashmina? If somebody is producing with the same fiber in Ludhiana pashmina shawl, so can you call it pashmina from Kashmir? Because then there is a geographical indication involved in this. Similar case with the Meenakari. If you go to Banaras, you can find a different style of Meenakari, which is done in Rajasthan. And they use different motifs, they use different material, their process is very different, their output is also very different. But when you look at the Jaipur Meenakari, it has its own unique style. So in every region, because these, like craft has no boundary. Things move with the civilization. When people migrated in India, they brought certain craftsmen in India. Those craftsmen settled down in our local settlements, and they evolved, and then they adopted the local culture, and they started producing product for the local rituals, local needs of the citizens. And slowly over the generation, they become the native craftsmen of the region. So a lot of things is related to intangible heritage, and things are, if you go to China, you can find block printing in China also, you can find block printing in Jaipur also, but their raw material and their output, it's completely different. So every region has its own unique style, which is uh, purely defines the particular area of that particular region. So every craft has its unique characteristics. So that's it.
Thank you, Harminder. So moving on to the next presenter, we have Tapasya Samal, whose research interest is office and the Indian point of culture. Welcome, Tapasya.
Thank you.
You can share your screen.
Yes, 1 second. So good afternoon, everyone. I would like to introduce myself briefly. I'm an architect by profession and practice, had been teaching at Sushant